So when we talk about success, especially, in learning, what are we really talking about? Is it just the grades, the test scores?
Right. Is it just checking those boxes, or is there maybe something deeper, something that really empowers the learner?
Exactly. And that's what we're digging into today. We're doing a deep dive into this idea of redefining success, looking at something called street data and the pedagogy of voice.
Yeah, it's all about exploring how um, valuing student agency, really putting that front and center, can fundamentally change education,
Mm.
moving it away from just, compliance towards real connection.
Deeper understanding, ultimately.
Precisely. And we're drawing on a really compelling chapter here. It's got research. It's got these powerful stories from an initiative called the BALMA Project.
Okay.
And it offers a pretty clear framework, actually, for a more equitable way of thinking about learning.
So our mission today for you listening is to really unpack that. What is this street data? What does agency truly mean in this context?
And we'll lay out 6 sort of practical rules for fostering this pedagogy of voice.
Yeah. You should get some surprising insights, I think, into how real learning happens when we shift that focus, empowering learners no matter their background.
Okay, so let's start with the traditional view. We all know it, right?
Yeah.
The heavy reliance on test scores, GPAs.
Yeah, the standard stuff.
And the source points out these often come from a deficit metric, basically looking at what students don't know or what they lack.
What are the kind of hidden costs of always looking at things that way, measuring deficits? How does that actually affect a student?
Well, that's a huge question, isn't it?
Right.
Because it can inadvertently create this system that just labels kids instead of building them up.
Right.
And that's exactly why this idea of street data is presented as such a, well, powerful alternative.
Okay, so what is it? How is it different?
Instead of those big standardized tests, it's about real-time qualitative stuff.
Yeah.
Information coming directly from the student's own lived experiences.
So less snapshot, more
Okay.
video.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, like a high-def video of their learning journey. It gives you this immediate, rich understanding that a bubble sheet just can't.
So it moves us away from what the source calls that whole testing culture and things like teacher proofing, the curriculum, making it super rigid.
Uh-huh. And those pacing guides that dictate everything day by day, often without, considering where the students actually are.
It sounds like it's about really seeing the student getting a more equitable understanding.
Exactly. And to see this in action, we really need to talk about the BALMA Project.
BALMA, that's Balboa High School and Marin Academy.
That's the one. A public high school and a private school working together. Pretty unique collaboration.
And the origin is fascinating, right? It wasn't some top-down thing.
No, not at all. It started with just one young teacher, Shane, launching this project-based learning thing around law. Really organic.
Just a passionate teacher's vision that kind of exploded.
It really did. It became this phenomenon. You had these incredibly diverse students from both schools connecting, learning together, digging into really complex stuff about equity in education.
Wow.
Yeah, it went on for months. They visited each other's schools, had these deep talks, and it all ended with this big presentation to like over 200 people. The energy was just palpable.
And the source includes voices from people who are actually in it, right? Graduates, teachers.
Yes, and they're incredibly powerful. Like Christine de Leon, she's also known as Rocky Rivera, the hip-hop journalist.
Okay.
She said, when we did this project, affirmative action had just been dismantled. The question hanging in the air was, if you had access as a low-income student of color, would you be able to be on par?
Yeah, a huge question then.
Huge. And she continues, not only were our students on par, but they outperformed. And not only outperformed, but made changes to the system and played a significant role while they were there.
Outperformed and changed the system. That's significant.
Isn't it? And Rex DeGia, one of the teachers, he echoed that. Said students just performed way beyond expectations. And Tana Gomez, who's now a public defender, she talked about feeling really empowered, like she didn't have to sit silently with it. She found the sense of activism, a sense of purpose.
That sense of purpose, it makes you challenge those base assumptions about what students are capable of, doesn't it? When their voices are actually valued.
Absolutely.
But, I can hear some people thinking, okay, BALMA sounds amazing, maybe idealistic. How do you do that in a really large, maybe under-resourced school system? Does the source get into those practicalities?
That's a fair point, a really fair point. And the source acknowledges that big system changes are complex, definitely. But it argues the core principles, this idea of agency, that's actionable anywhere.
Agency. Okay, so let's define that. The source calls it the core stance of equity education.
Yeah, it's essentially about a student's ability to take action,
Hmm.
to make plans and actually carry them out, to make informed choices based on what they're learning.
So it's not just knowing stuff, but doing stuff with the knowledge.
Exactly. It's the capacity to act.
And it's not just one thing, right? The source breaks it down. Tunison's 4 domains.
Right, yeah. Tunison's work from 2007,
Right.
4 key areas. First is identity. That's the feeling that, my ways of being, learning, knowing they're valued here.
Okay, identity. What's next?
Second is mastery. Simple enough. I can build knowledge and show I understand it.
Makes sense.
Third is belonging. Crucial. I see myself and I am seen and loved here.
That feeling of connection.
And finally, efficacy. I can actually make a difference here.
Identity, mastery, belonging, efficacy. Those 4 build that foundation of agency.
Yeah, and the source even uses this visual, like a puzzle. Agency is the big blue piece right in the middle.
Ah, okay.
And it connects out to all these other important ideas. Holism, anti-racism, deep listening, vulnerability. It really shows how central agency is to the whole picture of equitable education.
So if agency is this nuanced, personal thing built on these 4 pillars, how on earth do you measure it? That seems tricky.
It does, but the source offers some concrete ways. First, a simple 10-question survey. Before and after an experience, maybe.
Like a Likert scale, 1 to 4.
Exactly. Asking about things like, do they feel their identity is valued? Can they build their own knowledge? Do they feel seen?
Okay, surveys. What else?
Well, you can do actual interviews, agency interviews.
Talking to students directly?
Yeah, asking things like, to what extent do you feel your ways of learning are valued here? Or maybe, when did you last feel you could make a difference about something that mattered to you? What was that like?
Getting richer narrative answers.
Right. And a third way is using something called single-point rubric reflections.
Single point rubric.
Yeah, it's simpler than it sounds.
Yeah.
Students just reflect on roses, things that went well, and thorns, things that were tough related to those agency domains, like identity or mastery.
So they're articulating their own experience with it.
Precisely. It's self-assessment, really.
Okay, so all these ways of understanding and measuring agency, it points towards this bigger shift you mentioned earlier, moving from a pedagogy of compliance.
To a pedagogy of voice.
And this pedagogy of voice, it's got roots in critical pedagogy, right? Like Paulo Freire.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Freire's pedagogy of the oppressed, this idea of education as liberation, as a tool for social change, and also culturally responsive education, which is all about respecting and using students' diverse backgrounds as assets in the classroom.
So let's contrast that starkly with the old model, the banking model, as Freire called it, the pedagogy of compliance. What's the main data source there?
In compliance, usually tests, quizzes, focused on spitting back facts.
Right, and in the pedagogy of voice.
It's that street data we talked about, formative stuff, performance-based things that show deeper understanding.
And the core belief, compliance is based on...
Hierarchy, usually. Teacher has the knowledge, dispenses it.
Whereas voice?
It's more democratic. Teacher and students are co-creators, building knowledge together.
And instructionally, compliance often looks like...
Lecture, mostly. Information dissemination.
But voice is much more.
Active. Inquiry, dialogue, projects, simulations, students doing the learning.
And how students are viewed, that changes fundamentally too. Compliance sees them as...
Vessels to fill, empty containers.
Oh, yeah. But voice sees them
as culturally grounded critical thinkers, people who bring gifts, experiences, inherent capacity. It's a total shift in perspective.
This shift to a pedagogy of voice, it feels like. It's more than just trying a new teaching technique. The source talks about it igniting curiosity, critical thinking, even critical consciousness. How does that, like, freedom in learning actually feel day to day for students and teachers?
Well, I think it feels like ownership. Students feel like their questions actually matter, maybe even drive what happens next. They see why they're learning something, and they feel like their unique way of seeing the world is actually an asset, not something to be hidden.
That makes sense.
And to make it practical, the source gives us these 6 simple rules, like actionable things to cultivate this pedagogy of voice.
Okay, let's get into them. Rule number 1, talk less, smile more. Which, yes, I saw the note. That's from Hamilton.
It is. Lin-Manuel Miranda, Aaron Burr's advice.
Yeah.
But here it means, quite literally, teachers reducing their talk time.
How much less talk?
The guideline suggested is, like, never go more than 10 or 15 minutes straight without pausing. You need to stop for students to process, ask questions, work together. Give them space.
It's creating space for their voice, not just the teacher's.
Exactly. And the smile more part isn't trivial either. It's about nonverbals. Warmth, eye contact, really listening. It sends that message, you're seen, you belong here.
Okay, rule 2, questions over answers.
Yeah, this flips the traditional script, right? Classrooms usually rush to the right
I
answer.
get the answer, move on.
But inquiry-based learning says, hold on. The question is often more important than the answer itself.
So how do you foster that? Make kids better questioners.
It means creating opportunities. Students posing their own questions, maybe in journals or KWL charts. Students asking each other questions, small groups, fish bowls, that kind of thing.
And the teacher's role shifts too.
Absolutely. Teachers use Socratic methods, start units with big, essential questions, build projects around really provocative, open-ended questions. It's about nurturing that authentic curiosity.
Letting their genuine questions drive the learning. Okay, rule 3, ritualize reflection and revision.
Keyword there is ritualize.
Yeah.
Make it a regular habit, not just a random add-on if there's time.
So like build it into the class structure.
Yeah. Maybe start class with a quick prompt. What stuck with you from yesterday? Use those traffic light check-ins. Red, yellow, green for understanding.
Quick pulse checks.
Right. Or end-of-week prompts. What's one thing I'm still grappling with? Peer feedback loops are huge here, too.
And portfolios come in here as well.
Definitely. They let students show their journey, their revised work, how their thinking evolved. It's about growth over time, not just the final product.
Makes sense. Rule 4, make learning public.
This is about students sharing what they've learned beyond just the teacher, taking it to a wider audience.
This sounds like that BALMA example again, that quote from Damien Padilla.
Yeah, it fits perfectly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You trusted us. Here's your parameters. Now create your lesson plan. That's making learning public, and it's huge trust.
So practically, what does making learning public look like?
It could be oral defenses of their work, maybe presentations to community members, setting up exhibits of research papers, art projects, models they've built.
Things that have an audience beyond the classroom walls.
Exactly. It builds that collective sense of accomplishment, and it really puts students in the driver's seat. They own it more when they know they have to share it.
Okay, rule 5, circle up. This sounds physical.
It often is. It's about moving away from rows facing the front, that hierarchical setup.
Towards more democratic arrangements.
Yeah, circles where everyone can see each other. Everyone theoretically has an equal voice. Perry Smith's quote captures it. Everyone is equal.
What kind of activities fit this?
Socratic seminars are a classic example. Concentric circles where inner and outer circles discuss. Even just students huddling around tables working on a project together embodies this.
So the physical space reinforces the message of shared learning and equal voice.
Right. It fosters belonging, encourages everyone to participate, empowers students to lead, sometimes too.
Okay, final rule. Rule 6. Feedback over grades. This feels like a big one, maybe the most challenging.
It definitely challenges the status quo, yeah. The argument is that traditional grades often just incentivize compliance, doing the minimum to get the grade rather than deep learning.
And they can be biased, the source suggests.
They can be, yeah, reflecting things other than pure understanding. So the push here is towards rich, formative feedback.
Helping students understand where they are and how to improve, rather than just giving them a label, a letter.
Exactly. Using clear rubrics, criterion-based ones, so students know what success looks like. Allowing redos and retakes, focusing on improvement.
And talking with students one-on-one.
Teacher-student conferencing becomes really important. That dialogue about their work, their growth. It's about helping them grow and reflect, not just sorting and ranking them.
So pulling this all together, shifting to this pedagogy of voice, focusing on agency, it really reframes education.
It does. It moves it from just compliance to actual empowerment, unlocking creativity, deeper learning.
Yeah.
For all students.
And importantly, these ideas aren't just for schools, are they?
Not at all. Think about it in your own life, your work, your community.
Yeah.
Valuing different identities, helping people master things, building belonging, encouraging efficacy.
How could you use talk less, smile more in a team meeting? Or prioritize questions over answers when you're facing a complex problem with others?
Exactly. These are human principles, really.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. If knowledge is really most valuable when we understand it deeply and can apply it, and if critical thinking is so vital in this age of just information overload, how can you cultivate a stronger sense of agency in your own life? And maybe in the lives of people around you? How do you move beyond just consuming information to actually using it to make a difference?